Beep, beep, beep.
Arizona is pro sports retirement.
You had no chance with Kelly Kapowski.
We don't make mistakes. It's happy little accidents.
You only live once. Run wild on you. Who would have seen this coming? Oh yeah, he's Rank on tackling Dummies.
What's cracking, everybody? James Koh, Adam Rank here with you. We welcome you into the Tackling Dummies. We're just two idiots talking about football and other things as well. The Macho Man, Ranky Savage.
Oh,
What's cracking, dude?
yeah.
How you doing, pal?
I'm doing great, although I believe that I'm going to be retiring my Macho Man impersonation because Kyle Brandt really crushed it on GMFB. Now, he did a really nice job. Although, I will say this. Last year on GMFB weekend, and it was when Jane Slater was hosting, I actually broke out. I think it might have been for the first time I did a Stone Cold, which would make more sense for me to do the Stone Cold. And I really thought that I nailed that. So when people were saying things like, hey, you guys, I'm like, listen, I'm cool with it. I will go to Stone Cold. Obviously this kind of fits a little bit better. So no worries with that. If you, now I'm going to sit here and yell what now every time you talk.
Perfect.
What?
That would make this show go along quite nicely. I think.
What?
So good.
Okay, that's it. That's the last time. That's the last time.
Okay, all right, that's good. Got a great show in front of us here today.
What? Okay, that's it.
Okay, that's the last time.
That's.
We're going to talk about Julian Edelman's Hall of Fame credentials. We're going to be talking a little bit about, I don't know, running backs wearing single-digit jersey numbers.
I care about that more than I should.
I know. I was going to say this seems like a passion topic for Adam Rank.
The biggest story of the offseason.
If we have time, we will talk about how long is too long to go number 2.
Interesting.
Yes. But how about right off the top, Adam Rank, and I'll throw it to you, man. Jadeveon Clowney reportedly he did sign a 1-year deal with the Cleveland Browns. Could be up to $10 million. Sounds like it's about $8 million with incentives. But, man, he joins the team now with Myles Garrett, Malik Jackson, maybe Sheldon Richardson if he's able to stick onto the team. But it's a team certainly on the defensive line that's looking really nasty, really scary.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in my mock draft with a twist, which I'll actually be doing, I'd written the piece for NFL.com. I'll be doing a piece on my own YouTube page at youtube.com/AdamRankNFL. And I had the Browns selecting a defensive end. They were just fortifying the defensive line. I think there's some talented guys, especially where they're going to be drafting. But of course, going out and getting a talent like Jadeveon Clowney seems to be the perfect move, especially with as close as they are. You know, I think that people kind of overlook how dominant the Browns were in that playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it was a kind of a situation where we were just relieved. Hey, the Browns got into the playoffs. Cool. I think anybody who has compassion or empathy for a fan base was like, okay, we're cool. We're happy Cleveland's in the playoffs.
Right.
And they'll probably get smoked, but whatever, they made it. They go out there and had a really nice performance. And I know that the Steelers made it look closer than it was cosmetically. That game was not close at all. And I think that what we're seeing in Cleveland is Kevin Stefanski is the kind of coach that people want to play for. And I really do hope, and I think the Bucs gave a little bit of a glimpse of this. And I really do like the idea of super teams, especially in the NFL, because I think that we could start every season and I know the NFL loves parity, and there's always that surprise team that comes out of nowhere.
Right.
there's a number of franchises that aren't going to be competitive, probably won't be competitive forever. And unfortunately, the Bears might be one of them. But it's like, you're not going to win. I might as well just see great teams. Because I think back to, I guess it was the 90s, where we had the Cowboys and the 49ers every year. We just were like, these are the two teams we wanted to see in the NFC Championship game. The Packers were a nice little spoiler here and there, like they were the jobber that you thought like maybe could pull an upset. You're like, oh my God, are they going to do it? And they did do it one year, because I think the Cowboys beat the Packers in 95 to go to the Super Bowl. Was it 95 or was it 94? Anyways, but I like that. I kind of like having dominant teams at the top. I think it makes it more entertaining. And I'm not saying that Cleveland is this team, but I think it's trending in that direction, because there's a nice collection of talent with the Browns.
Adam Rank, don't you kind of feel like this whole idea of parity in the NFL is, first of all, it's overrated, because again, I think everyone likes dynasties, whether you love them or love to hate them. But I also think that this whole idea of parity in the NFL, I kind of sort of think it's just not true. I mean, there's only been a handful of teams that have won the Super Bowl over the last 20 years. The Patriots obviously have been one of those teams. The Steelers have always been in the mix. And now you could throw Kansas City in the mix as well. So I'm with you, man. I like it when the NFL's got these teams that you could either root for or root against, man. And when it's different every single year, it's hard to do that. So I'm not exactly sure, man. But Jadeveon Clowney, I will say this: going to the Cleveland Browns to team up with Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett.
Very interesting scenario here, right? Because again, 9.5 sacks and 9.0 sacks in the last 2 years with Houston, but that was in 2017 and 2018. Everyone wants to dunk on Clowney for just having 3 sacks over his last 2 seasons, which was 21 games. I just think, Adam Rank, man, like you're talking about a complimentary piece now. They're not looking at this guy to be a primary pass rusher. And I don't even know if that was really where he was great. I've always thought he was a great run stuffer. As a matter of fact, per Next Gen Stats, over the last 2 seasons, he's had the 7th highest run stuff rate in the NFL among all qualified defenders. So again, continues to be a great run defender, but I just think he adds a lot of juice to that D-line.
Yeah, wasn't it a primetime game a couple of years ago when he was playing for Seattle and they were playing the 49ers, and he just ruined that 49ers offensive line. I think that was the night that the 49ers had their first loss of the season, and Clowney was a huge part of that, if I'm remembering this correctly. And of course, this information's coming to us last minute, so if I'm getting the details mixed up, I apologize. I always felt that he was that kind of player, like exactly what you're saying, is somebody who's going to go out there and stuff the run. And listen, Dynasty Vipers, I did not call them an unstoppable force. I'm just saying that I like the way that they're trending. I want to see these good teams. And I think that Clowney is a good kind of pickup that's reminiscent of the New England Patriots and what they did to be so successful, as they always seem to find players who came in, not necessarily at the end of their career, but, they'd been around a little bit, and they came in and they performed admirably and performed well. And James, I guess this will be a nice little transition too, because I want to bring up something. Speaking of the Patriots.
Yeah.
So Julian Edelman is expected to retire, which is, I think, code for seeing Tampa Bay in week 9. I'm stunned. I got quote tweeted by who's the famous dude from Barstool? He's a Bears fan too. It's Big Cat, or I think it's Big Cat. There's a pro football commenter or whatever. So he quote tweeted me. I never thought that I would live to see this day. Because to me, Julian Edelman's going to the Hall of Fame, and it's not it's not as Tom Brady's guest. It's not as a patron. Now hold on, listen. He's going to the Hall of Fame, and it's just dumb to even argue it. Here's my thing. Is that everybody's trying so hard to be a contrarian that now it's come to the point where the contrarian view of like, no, he's not, has actually become the dominant view. Like, I don't think that I've ever seen something like this happen before. It would be like if everybody just decided to hate Star Wars or something. Because you agree with me. Like, Edelman's in the Hall of Fame. I think the question is it stupid to say that he's not? What is
Adam
wrong?
Rank. Not only he's nowhere even close to being in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, he's 5 years away.
The sad thing is this. You might actually be correct that he might make the Hall of Fame, but there is no chance in hell this guy deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Deserves got nothing to do with it.
I mean, I guess if it's just strictly a popularity contest, okay, fine. But I mean,
is it not? Dude. Why is Jerome Bettis in the Hall of Fame if it's not a popularity contest?
Come on, dude. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, it really is. Well, he's got 620 receptions. He ranks 75th in receptions. He ranks 156th in receiving yards. His 36 touchdowns is outside of the top 250. I tried to look it up on Pro Football Reference. I couldn't even find where he ranked. He was so far down the list. And I don't care whether or not you're talking about in his prime. Even if you take his 6-year prime between 2013 to 2019.
Where he was fourth in the NFL, averaging close to 7 receptions per game. That's the fourth highest.
Yeah. He averaged 965 yards per season. 965 yards per season.
Listen,
he averaged 5.3 touchdowns per season.
This is such a
Come on, dude.
I saw Will Brinson. I saw my friend Will Brinson make this argument too. You guys have been in fantasy football for far too long. That if all you're doing, if the Hall of Fame is I'm opening Pro Football Reference and I'm going to pick the guy who had the most yards. If I'm not mistaken, at some point, if he hasn't done it already, and if not, he's close. Frank Gore might end up with more rushing yards than Walter Payton. So would you legitimately sit here and be like, well, Frank Gore's obviously better. He had more yards. And I think there's two arguments here, Adam Rank. Whether or not he belongs in the Hall
and whether or not he's better than said player.
Okay,
in your argument, Frank Gore belongs in the Hall, but he's not better than Walter Payton. Come on now.
All right, that's fair. Let me back it up a little bit. Obviously from 2019 through 2013 through 19, he averaged over 6 receptions per game. That's the 4th highest total. That's the way their offense ran. So I think that it's a little bit different. And I'll explain this to you. I'll try to get this, my thoughts as linear as possible. For one, I think that for me, I think what people need to remember is that the Hall of Fame is still a subjective thing. There's certain lenses that people put on it. Like to me, I know that Julian Edelman doesn't have the prolific numbers that somebody like Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, guys who are playing when he's playing have put up, who are obvious Hall of Famers. So I understand that. But it's also the same thing like Brock Lesnar doesn't do as many house shows as, Curtis Axel. But I think that Brock Lesnar is probably going to get into the WWE Hall of Fame. And I like Curtis, Joe. Sorry, I don't mean to drag your name through this. That's not fair to you. But it's a different thing. And to me, this is my criteria for judging the Hall of Fame, is that I've always judged people on the impact that they have made in the game. If you're sitting here and I'm telling my child about the last 10 years of the NFL, Dwayne Bowe might have had more yards than Julian Edelman. Dwayne Bowe is never being mentioned in this story. Julian Edelman has been a big factor in so many plays. Like you think about the touchdown pass that he threw to Danny Amendola. He scored the go-ahead touchdown against the Seahawks in that Super Bowl. He had that miracle catch against the Falcons that allowed them to rally. He looked like that little undersized kid in the AYSO game that's dominating all the big kids in the Super Bowl against the Rams. And for me, I think that it's more important that you were at your best on the biggest stage. And to me, he kind of compares favorably to Lynn Swann, Fred Biletnikoff, Michael Irvin, guys who, and I know yardage-wise it doesn't matter because I know they played in the 70s and the yardage is different, but like Lynn Swann didn't lead the league in receiving. Fred Biletnikoff did it once. Michael Irvin did it once. And by the way, you measure receiving by receptions, not yards. We got to remember that as well. So for me, when I'm voting on the Hall of Fame, and thankfully for a lot of you, I don't have a vote, so you're not going to have to worry about this. I would vote in Julian Edelman. And if it's a thing about like, what about this guy? I'm like, I don't care. I'm not whatabouting this of anybody who's not in the Hall of Fame right now. Whether Hines Ward's in, whether Torrey Holt's in, or I don't care. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about why I believe Julian Edelman deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And remember, the NFL Hall of Fame requires you to put in at least 4 players every year. So it's kind of watered down anyways. And I think that if people would, and it's a fun conversation to have, but don't act like he's not getting in. Because I think that you even said yourself, you've resigned yourself to this fact. Like, well, he's probably, like, that's the thing. Yeah, he's probably going to, like, he is. Just accept, like, this Patriots dynasty, I believe, has 2 prominent Patriot. Like, they've been a dominant team for 20 years. There's 2 guys who spent the majority of their career with the Patriots who are in the Hall of Fame right now. Who is it? Curtis Martin, Ty Law? If I'm missing one, forgive me. But Edelman is not Ricky Prohl. That's just, no. Now, the 4 iconic plays that I listed, there are guys that don't make plays like that. He's been the biggest on the biggest stage. And you know what? Bill Belichick himself has called out Julian Edelman and said, of all the guys who've exemplified the Patriot way, Julian Edelman has been the one who's done it the most. Outside of, I think, Stephen Neal, I think was the first guy that he mentioned. So I don't know. I'm passionate about it. I think that he's going to get in. And by the way, his bus better have the beard, or I'm going to be then I'll be upset.
Listen, man, this is a player who has had 3 1,000-yard receiving seasons, and you just said it yourself.
Actually,
you just said it yourself.
Or if you count the postseason,
you just said it yourself, my friend. You just said it yourself. Receptions don't matter. Receiving yards matter. He's had 3.
No, that's not what I said. I said you measure.
That's what you just said.
No.
You just said that.
You measure receiver. If you lead the league in receiving, that means you had the most receptions of anybody. It's not yardage. It's never been yardage. It's not like rushing.
Listen. This is the other thing. This is a man who has never made the Pro Bowl. Never.
Because his team's always in the playoffs. Why is so Mitch Trubisky made the Pro Bowl.
Listen, you
David
talk
Garrard
about guys
made the
like
Pro
Lynn
Bowl.
Swan. You talk about guys like Fred Biletnikoff.
But the Pro Bowl mattered back then.
Listen, at what point was Julian Edelman considered by anyone in the league to be a top 5 wide receiver? At any point in his career.
I would think that every time the Patriots made the playoffs, Julian Edelman was a problem for people.
I agree. In the playoffs, he was. But there's no one who would say that Julian Edelman at any point in his career was a top 5 wide receiver. I mean, again, you want to talk about, let's say his teammate Gronk, shortened career, but whatever. Maybe the stats don't line up for him to be the greatest or whatever it is. But the dude, when he was on the field throughout the regular season, throughout the postseason, that dude was a monster. And everyone considered that dude to be a top 2 tight end whenever he stepped on the field. Julian Edelman, not that guy. 0 Pro Bowls. I mean, come on, my dude.
Pro Bowl. I love the Pro Bowl argument.
Edelman, in 11 years, he's made 0? He's made 0 in 11 years.
Everybody clowns the Pro Bowl like it's some joke, but when it can be used to your advantage to make a point, like, well, he never made a Pro Bowl. Like, well, first of all, he was in the Super Bowl. So I'm sorry that he didn't make the Pro Bowl that season. He was too busy winning the Super Bowl MVP award. That's like Mitch Trubisky has a Pro Bowl. He has an MVP. Like these fake accolades are fine. I don't know. Again, it comes down to me, like, how big of an impact did you make on the game? And to me, you cannot talk about the last decade of NFL football without mentioning Julian Edelman. And for that reason, I would vote him in.
This is the last thing I'll say about Julian Edelman. It drives me nuts that this is an argument that we're having because, listen, why is it not good enough that Julian Edelman is an extremely famous player? Why is it not good enough that Julian Edelman made a bunch of money, won a bunch of Super Bowls, and is a good player? It's totally fine to be a good player. He's not a Hall of Fame player. And that's what I don't understand about people like yourself or Patriots fans. By the way, you teaming up with Patriots fans all of a sudden. Like, listen, what is going on here? I don't understand.
James, it's not all of a sudden. I think that you can look through the entirety of my career and you really, like, you'll look back and be like, Rank was kind of a Patriots homer. Like there's been too many times where we've hosted parties, like championship game parties, where I will be, we have one friend who's a Patriots fan. I will be the one other person rooting for the Patriots. I was in the tunnel of the Super Bowl when they were playing the Falcons. I was sort of rooting for that comeback. Like it's crazy. Well, I will tell you this. Their first Super Bowl win came against the St. Louis Football Club. And there's a story that I can't tell because it might have involved some things that I'm probably not. It doesn't matter. It's a long time ago. But I had called the Patriots to beat the Rams in that Super Bowl, the St. Louis FC. And I got my friends on board with it. And we were, and I wouldn't let them. I'm like, they're going to win outright. So whatever that means to you, they're going to win outright. You don't need any help. And so everybody's like, okay, I will follow this advice.
Wink,
and so,
wink.
So there's always going to be a little bit of like, I'll never forget that. That is one of the most unforgettable. And I wish at some point, maybe if I move on to some other platform, I can tell this story in its entirety.
Good.
I don't have to do like the mob voice where my face is like darkened and blacked out and my voice is muffled. Right. But I've always had like kind of a love for the Patriots because of that. So I agree. But to me, and it's fun, I agree with you. Like, again, I agree. Like I kind of like, I think the Baseball Hall of Fame is stupid, but I kind of like they go years where they don't induct anybody. Now it's dumb that Barry Bonds isn't in and stuff like that. But they have it like you have to be a legitimate Hall of Famer. Guys like Dale Murphy, and I know that nobody's heard of Dale Murphy, maybe Patty Oski. Like that's a guy who, if he was an NFL equivalent player, would have been in the Hall of Fame in his first 3 years. Like guys like, no disrespect to Kurt Warner, like Kurt Warner, the baseball equivalent of Kurt Warner's career would not get in the Hall of Fame. Jerome Bettis would not get into the Hall of Fame. Tim Brown would not get into the Hall of Fame. We let these guys in because the Pro Football Hall of Fame's got a festival that they got to sell every year. And you don't think that at some point they're going to have, and he's not getting in on the first attempt, but he's getting in. And I think that my reasoning is I feel like I'm the only one who understands the way the Pro Football Hall of Fame works. And I get like,
you're the only one.
No, because you and Will Brinson and all these other guys and the Barstool guys are just going after it as like a practicality of like, he doesn't have the numbers to get in. He shouldn't be qualified. And I'm like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know, but I'm also the guy who's like, I know that Massimo's kid doesn't have the grades to get into USC, but they're getting in. That's just the reality of it. And that's the way it is. I'm trying to help you out because I don't want you to be upset 10 years from now when Edelman's in the Hall of Fame. Like, how did this happen? Like, I told you it was going to happen. I told you why it was going to happen. And under the lens of the way the NFL, or it's not the NFL, by the way, the NFL is not involved with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's a separate entity. Right. He's getting in. So just get used to it.
Okay. All right.
It's like they're gonna make more Avengers movies. Like there it is. Just get used to it.
You know who is going to make the Hall of Fame is one Mr. Aaron Rodgers, and I thought he did a bang up job on Jeopardy when he was hosting. We've got a little clip here, but the moments in Jeopardy that everyone is talking about is this.
Scott, did you come up with the correct response? Who wanted to kick that field goal? That is a great question. Should be correct, but unfortunately for this game today, that's incorrect, and you're going to lose 0. Thank you for that, and congrats on your 2-day win streak.
Just for a little bit of background information, maybe you forgot. By the way, maybe you forgot. We're gonna hit that in 1 minute, Rank, okay? But maybe you forgot. Packers trailing by 8 in the NFC Championship game, 31-23. Packers, with like 2 minutes to go in the game, had it 4th and goal at the 8. Okay, they decided to kick a field goal to make it 5 and give the ball back to Tom Brady, which was just everyone, whether you were an analytics person, whether you were a traditional football fan, new, old, didn't matter. Everyone said that was a terrible decision, and it finally made its way to Jeopardy. Now, to Rank's point, Rank, I have to ask, how did you get onto the set of Jeopardy and ask this question? Because that is you. That is you.
Yeah, and I don't think enough people are talking about my 2-game win streak. I thought that was the most impressive thing. It came to an end. I was mathematically eliminated at that point too, I believe.
Yes, you were.
But in any event, you gotta take your shot. Unlike Matt LaFleur, you gotta take your shot at some point. I love that. That was the funnest. Like when that started coming around on the internet, I'm like, oh my God, this is hilarious. Like it would have been perfect for the producers of Jeopardy to put me in on Aaron Rodgers week, because I would, 100%. But somebody did it for me. So I got my stand-in to do it. So I was really appreciative of it. And
I mean, the fact that he's trolling the Packers here
my
is,
God.
And that he looks
So
like
good.
you.
Looks like me, like it's a movie. Like
all of it.
Jason Statham there, sitting there doing his thing. I loved it. Can I say one thing about Aaron Rodgers doing Jeopardy?
Okay,
And
go ahead.
This is like all kayfabe aside. It's really annoying how good he was at it. You're like, he's kind of stiff, but I think that it's also something that he's not used to doing. That
it was like day one.
I know.
I mean, can you imagine if this guy got reps? He would be amazing at this.
Unbelievable.
Job.
Like this will be one of the things that you would like, I don't think that he's going to be, but if he became the host of Jeopardy, it would be one of those things that you look back on and been like, wow, like he seems green right here, but he's excellent. Like it sucks. Like I hate it. Like he was in the finale of The Office too. And you're like, God damn, he's good at this too.
So
like
good.
It's just so annoying. Like it's whatever. You know what though? Honestly, you know who would actually be very good at this?
Who's that?
Is Jay Cutler. I think Cutler would have been really good at this too.
No.
Stop it. Now, see, listen, this is why.
Will you stop. Why would Jay Cutler? Jay Cutler would be awful at Jay Cutler would be awful at anything involving talking to other humans.
Are you kidding me?
About?
Okay, now you're exposing yourself to somebody who never saw Barry Cavallari, where he was the star of the show. You don't understand.
You're right. I never watched Barry Cavallari, and I probably never will. What are you talking about?
Okay, this is
horrible.
You missed out. I don't know. Like you're somebody who's somewhat savvy on the internet. How you missed this because Cutler was so good on this show that they had to switch it. They had to get Jay involved more because he was so good, and the people surrounding Kristen on that show were so bad that Jay ended up stealing the show.
Oh, okay.
And, and there's things about Jay that I don't always agree with, but as a personality, like he's funny. He's got a dry sense of humor. He's got kind of like, I wish I was better. I wish I was friends with him. Cause I'm like, there's some things that we need to talk about. I got to set you straight on a couple of things. I know you're from Tennessee, but let me clear a couple of things up for you. Because sometimes on his IG, you're like, bro, I think you're missing the point of this.
Now that would be a good show. I would watch that show. 100%.
Rank and Cutler, we would be good
Rank
together.
And Cutler show, that's an actually good reality TV show. That would be good. I would watch that.
Yeah, I would like that. But he's good, and I'm upset that you just can't give Jay a little bit. I'm sitting here, heaping praise on Rodgers for no reason. What? And I'm like, Cutler, listen.
What do you mean no reason? No reason. He was great on Jeopardy. That's a reason. Jay Cutler would be awful.
Now he sucks.
Now you're going back.
I'm changing my position. Okay. No, it's hurtful. Like it's the one, like when you, like if you ever if you ever have to extend an olive branch and you're like, hey, want to sit here and do the right thing. And then when the other person just smacks it and spits right in your face, that's more hurtful than whatever led to the thing of that I needed to extend an olive branch. That is the worst. Now. You just can't give. Jay's been crushing.
There's no olive branch. What are you talking about? Why do I need an olive branch? What are you even talking about?
I said something nice about Rodgers. You should at least play along and say something nice about Jay Cutler. And be like, I didn't realize that he became this phenomenon post post Bears career, and then he kind of ruined it. He kind of ruined a lot of the momentum in November. But I don't know. Hopefully he can rebuild back that goodwill that his reality show brought him.
Yes. By the way,
can I tell you something real quick?
How many by the ways are you going to have? Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that he was so good that I was the only member of this family who owned a Jay Cutler jersey. And the wife, Rosie McGee, became loved him so much that she bought jerseys for the kids and one for herself.
Wow.
Like
you indoctrinated your entire family, bro.
Yeah, that's good. And it's so fun to like, it sucks because he, again, in November, he really ruined like all the great, like in Cutler fashion, he got us to the brink. And then in November, he just throws an interception. You're like, oh, this happened again. I got sucked in by Cutler again, only to be let down. Our friend Social Emily knows exactly what we're talking about.
Yes, that's exactly
She's not watching
right.
the show, but whatever.
Yeah, no, she doesn't care about our show at all. She doesn't care about us. No, she's a great person.
That's not true.
Yeah, that's not true at all. Social Emily's great. And if she ever does watch this, hello, Social Emily. By the way, speaking of social, want to say hello to all the great fans and people, kind of tuning in. This is great. Dynasty Vipers, Warzone Sports Network. By the way, I think they've got YouTube channels too, so go and follow them.
Yeah,
Patio,
everybody follow everybody's team or social net or YouTube channel, whatever.
All of it. We got Project Drivel is in the chats. He says he's with you, I think, in regards to
he's got it.
In regards to the Edelman argument.
The lack of garbage time is there's multiple garbage time. The Patriots ran the football a lot, which is kind of why I used the Michael Irvin analogy or similarities. Because like Michael Irvin, and I know that he's our, you worked with him, I've worked with him, and he's a great guy. And I always felt like he and Jay Novacek both kind of suffered from the fact that the Cowboys always gave those touchdowns to Emmitt Smith, which is great. They won 3 Super Bowls, so I don't think either one of those guys is complaining at all. But you talk about prolific numbers they could have put out, especially Novacek. Like Novacek to me was the ultimate annoying player of like, hey, it's 3rd and 8. Here's Novacek with a 9-yard reception. You're like, every time automatic. This guy.
Every time. By the way, going from Jay Novacek to Jason Witten, that's like one of the great tight end handoffs of all time, is it not?
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Like you talk about the quarterback situation that they've had going from Aikman to Romo, now Dak Prescott. I know they had a couple of in between Aikman and Romo, they had like a Quincy Carter or two.
Quincy Carter.
But still, that's pretty nice. I'll take a couple years of Quincy Carter if I get Romo for a decade.
No, you'll get no argument from me. I thought he was supremely underrated. Okay, but I will ask you this. We're going from quarterbacks to running backs here. Fill in the blank, Adam Rank. Running backs who wear single-digit jerseys are blank.
The greatest thing ever. It's about time the NFL catches up. And, I worked at Disneyland.
Okay.
Back when you couldn't have beards or facial hair or tattoos, and your hair had to be cut at a certain length, whatever, which was actually a problem for me back in the day. So don't get it twisted. Now
I can only imagine you with the visor with the hair flowing through.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I could see it now.
Like our guy Franciscovich, we were talking about Matty Franchise, about the fact that you don't wear a visor hurts my soul. Because he has the floppy. I got a photo somewhere. I should break it out. I would break it out, but everybody thinks I'm wearing a mock turtleneck when I wasn't. So it's a bad. Anyways, that's nothing about nothing. The thing is like Disneyland has now allowed facial hair. You can have tattoos on your hands now. It's crazy. Like they've evolved with the times. And now it's time that the NFL has evolved with the times and allowed running backs to wear single digits. And to me, I'll never forget when Reggie Bush was coming into the NFL and he wanted to wear his number 5 that he wore at USC with the Saints and he said, listen, I'll donate a bunch of money, if not all of my jersey sales, to help out the rebuilding New Orleans. And the NFL's like, no. And it's like, why are you so hung up on such mundane things like this?
Know.
I love running backs
It's awful.
with single digits. Like I think Reggie Bush wore 5 in college. LaDainian Tomlinson wore 5 in college. Paul Hornung wore 5. Like it's a cool number for running backs. Every time I created a player on not Madden, but on NCAA, I would always create a player named Jesse Bell, which was my grandmother's name actually. And so Jesse Bell and he always wore number 7. Like Toby Gerhart wore that number in college. He wore it at Norco High too, by the way.
Wow.
That's my Corona hat right there. At Norco High. By the way, I'll never forget. I'll never forget.
Yeah.
Toby Gerhart was on Fantasy Live and I'm like, hey guys, I've got my high school football jersey. It's a Corona jersey. Toby will know it. Like, can I do the talk back with me wearing my Corona football jersey? And they're like, no.
Oh no.
They're like,
oh no.
That's stupid.
Oh no. I think
okay.
I did that interview.
No, you didn't.
Did I not?
Maybe. I don't know why.
I felt like
they
they got me in there because he was a Stanford guy and I was a Cal guy, and we had that whole back and forth. I feel like,
but it's not your fault.
Did I accidentally steal that interview?
No. That's not your fault. Like you're not the one being like, Rank can't do that. There was probably a member of the cast who was like, Rank shouldn't do that, but it clearly wasn't you. Like you wouldn't know. I'm like, hey, like whatever. By the way, like it's so funny. Like whatever. Good. That's another story for another podcast. I love the single digit numbers. I got myself back on track. I love the single digit numbers. I like seeing it on the wide receivers as well. We've seen it. Like I think we've seen a number. Didn't Keyshawn wear 3 at USC and things like that? And I just think it's fun. Like who cares? Like I do want to see a quarterback wear number 22 though. I think that would be dope. Like Bobby Lane or something like that. And I think that it's cool. Like just whatever, like roll back the numbers, like let people have some fun. It's anytime they do that, I always feel like it's a slap into the face of the guys who get upset because of receivers making TikTok videos or whatever. And anytime that you can thumb your nose at NFL traditionalists, I kind of like it. It's a great day. Although you do see like Bronco Nagurski wore number 3. And the only reason I remember that or even know that is because that number's retired for the Bears. Yeah.
Is that the greatest football name in history?
Easily. Bronco Nagurski. Like you've got nothing else you can do with your life.
Yeah,
and I also know that because if Russell Wilson joins the Bears at some point, we're going to have to talk to the Nagurski family, which I'm sure. Oh, I want to see a receiver wear 99. Like that was another one. Cause like Marshall Goldberg wore 99 for
I was with you all
Chicago.
the way.
You don't like that?
All the way. No, for whatever reason, these guys run faster in single digits. That's truth. That is truth. That's like when I start seeing these guys rock the 88, and the 88 was such a popular number back in the 90s. Irvin wore 88, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So all these dudes in the 90s wearing the 88, and that's fine. When I see these modern day wide receivers rock anything in the 80s, I'm like, bro, you look slow as hell.
Yeah.
Please swap out your jersey number. You got to be in those teens. Yeah, you got to be 11 or 12, you know what I mean, or 13. Like you run faster. I mean, look at the numbers. They're more. You got to look at those numbers. But you're more angular. You're more angular with those numbers. You know, it's like 88. It's too round. You know, it's slowing you down, bro. Like you got to swap them out. But you know, you talk about. By the way, if you're lost on this whole thing, the background is that the NFL is considering a rule change. Probably going to pass. Considering a rule change is going to allow wide receivers, running backs, tight ends to allow single-digit jersey numbers. Right now, only quarterbacks and kickers can rock the single digits, which is why we're having this conversation. But Reggie Bush, LaDainian Tomlinson, Christian McCaffrey. Remember Darren McFadden back at Arkansas was just an
number
unbelievable.
5. Oh, he was
a
number
beast.
5 too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was also a 5. Eric Bieniemy way back in the day.
Wait, what was McCaffrey's number?
He was a 5.
Oh, that's right.
I think if they once they allow this, I think 5 will be it's going to be the running back popular number. Yeah, it's going to be the running back number.
100%.
Because that's what all these guys wore. Reggie Bush, we obviously know. LaDainian Tomlinson at TCU, Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, Darren McFadden at Arkansas. They all wore the number 5. And there's like a ton more running backs that wore 5 as well. Derrick Henry wore the 2 at Alabama.
Yeah. would
Dalvin
be
Cook wore the 4
4
at Florida
that's right.
State. Alvin Kamara wore 6 at
Yeah,
Tennessee.
I was just trying to remember who wore 6. It was Kamara. That's right.
And Todd Gurley at Georgia wore 3. So there's been a lot of running back, a lot of great recent running backs that have worn single digits in college. And then I go all the way back to 1990, the Colorado Buffs, when they won the national championship, when they won the Natty. Eric Bieniemy was the centerpiece of that offense. He ran for 1,600 yards, 17 touchdowns. He wore the number 1. He wore the number 1. There's not too many running backs that wore the 1. So
No, that's a good one. That's usually a wide receiver who rocks that.
Exactly. Deshaun Jackson wore the number 1. A ton of wide receivers wore the number 1.
I would like to see George Kittle wear number 6.
Okay.
I don't know if that's retired for the 49ers. I just think like 6 to me was always a cool number because that's how many points you get for a touchdown. So
he's too see, but the thing is, he's too tough to wear a single digit number.
No, I think he'd look good.
I think he would look good. He definitely would run faster. He would take a tenth of a second off his 40 time.
Although
no doubt
85 does look pretty good on him. I don't know. I rescind that comment.
And that's what I'm saying. Like the 80s, they look tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like when you start rocking numbers in the 80s, that's a tough guy number. You know what I mean?
When you're Irvin and you're not as fast as other NFL players, like he's faster than me.
Yeah. Right.
But I think like that, you wear the 88 because you're going to be winning some battles at the line of scrimmage.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're blowing past a guy, you want to be wearing like number 2.
Exactly.
By the way, can I tell you something real quick?
Go ahead.
So
go ahead.
my daughter is playing AYSO. And so we show up at the field and she gets her pick because they're handing out jerseys, any number between 3 and 8.
3 and 8.
And I'm really curious about this. And I know my wife's favorite number is 3. I would have picked 7.
Yeah.
And I didn't say a word because I didn't want to like put any thoughts into her and like, oh, pick this number, do this.
Sure. Right.
There's a connection that I could make a connection to anything. And so I was just fascinated just to see what she'd pick. And she picked 8. And I love it. And I go, you know that Kobe Bryant wore 8. Like, this is so cool. And I did post it on my IG and I was like, hey, Kobe. I don't know. I just love stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm always fascinated by numbers. My sister's family, all the kids wore number 4 in all their sports, and it became a family number. And I kind of like stuff like that. I'll tell you another story too. When I played, forget it. Now let's move on to the next thing.
Okay, shall we? Okay, all right.
Fine.
You're, by the way, you're the one that's on a time crunch here, pal.
I know. I got to go do some NFL media stuff.
Yeah, exactly. All
at
right.
1.
This is we're gonna go off topic here, as we are apt to do at times. But time for a dumb argument.
Yeah.
Are you ready, Adam Rank?
Yeah.
How long is too long? We're speaking of numbers. How long is too long to go number 2?
Now that I have children, it's never long enough. I think it's perfect. I love, listen, that's the alone time. That's the time in the house. Although not anymore, because now the kids are just like, whatever.
Right.
Hey, they just want to barge in. My 2-year-old just loves hanging out. And I'm like, this cannot smell great for you. But you're here hanging out with me. And he'll walk in with his tablet and just want to, like, you're going to try to sit on my lap right now?
Wow. Oh, wow.
Like, that's not happening.
Wow. That's
and you
aggressive.
You know what's funny too is I'm like,
That's aggressive.
I need like I need to have the house empty sometimes when I'm, when I'm taking the twosie, I kind of need the house empty. If you could take the kids outside, if you're going whatever, like it's a nice moment for me.
Oh,
and,
100%.
I just want to be, so I don't know. Like before, like I would try not to be aggressive with it.
Okay.
But now that
so what are we talking like? What are we talking like? So when I'm asking what's too long, is like 15 minutes too long?
No, that's about acceptable. You should be signing out for 15-minute breaks.
Right.
It's a 15-minute break.
How about 20 minutes?
20 minutes is fine.
I'm a 15 to 20 minute guy, and it's funny.
Yeah.
My wife is always like, "What are you doing in there?" Like I'm like, I don't know.
Arguing with somebody on the internet?
Going.
Like, what do you think?
But it's just funny. Like, and I wonder if it's a gender thing, you know, like, do women go faster than guys? Like, I don't know. Cause my wife is in and out of there 5 minutes tops. And I'm like, dude, you're like
5
the
minutes?
Flash in there.
My
I'm like,
wife,
you're like the
yeah.
Flash in there. It's amazing.
Her twos are shorter than my ones. Like, you're like, what did you, I thought you had to go poop. She's like, I did. I'm like, what are you, like a dog? Like walking through the park? Just squatting and going?
Maybe it is a gender thing. I don't know.
It's
but
gotta
I will
be.
say,
Although, you know,
I will say this one thing.
I don't know. But because now that you have children,
Yes.
and the kids are somewhat attached to me, so they don't chase her into the bathroom. Oh, she'll camp out. Like, she'll camp out now. I think it's more to do with, if you're no kid factor, it's definitely a how do you say, gender issue.
Okay.
But I think post kids, like, everybody's like, this is my time.
Yeah.
Sit here and catch up. And why does Allison Hannigan think that the How I Met Your Mother won't get back together at some point? Read that.
Yep. Exactly.
What has BuzzFeed got going on? Okay.
Let's read about that. You know, I will say this though, when we're talking about how long is too long, it's too long if your showers are shorter than your number 2 breaks. Because my thought is, you want to be spending more time cleaning yourself than dirtying yourself. You know what I'm getting at here? So if you're spending like 20, 25 minutes in, on the can, let's at least try to approach that number in the shower. You know what I mean?
No, I got you.
So
That's too long. Like, don't be a hooligan.
Don't spend 15 minutes.
Shower is wasting water. Go in there and do what you got to do.
That's true. So what are you saying here? How long are your showers? Like 2 minutes?
Yeah, I try to make them as abbreviated as possible.
You're
unless
a
I'm
true
shaving my
environmentalist.
head. But otherwise, yeah, you got to get in, got to get out. Don't like to waste water. Oh my gosh, my kids, because my kids shower, and I'm like, you guys gotta hustle this up, because now they're screwing around. You're like, stop it, just get it.
Oh, that's a 20-minute process for sure, because they just like messing around.
Well, for me, yeah, because I'll let them bend the rules a little bit.
Ah, I see. So the mom's the actual disciplinarian there.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Like, if I ever want to make my daughter, like last night, I was trying to get her to. Like, we got to read these books. And she's like yelling. I'm like, your mom's going to come up here. And she got quiet. Got as quiet as a church mouse.
Oh, good stuff. Hey, listen, our time is coming nigh. We need to close out the show here. But again, I do want to say thank you to all the folks who kind of chipped in on the comments. Man,
follow
you guys
everybody's YouTube page.
Yeah, man, except Patio. Except Patio.
I don't think he's got one. All right.
I don't know. He says don't follow his page, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
Probably a bunch of rocket scientist stuff.
But I appreciate everybody kind of chiming in on the chats. Appreciate everybody watching. And we will be back with you next Wednesday. We like to say 10 o'clock-ish. But, of course, you'll, see a lot of highlights online as well and throughout the YouTube channel. But be sure, no matter what you do, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to Adam Rank's channel, and we'll be off and running. All right, for Adam Rank, I'm James Koh. We'll see you.
See you later.